My name is Mason Wheeler Shigley, and over the past few years, I've watched many different fields of technology advance into the realm of what was once science fiction. Over that time, I've had a lot of specific questions about mainly transhumanism, the mending of machines and the human body or mind. Today, those are used specifically for helping people that are disabled come back to where they were previously, or to a point where they would have been if they weren't born without such a defect. Seemingly unrelatedly, cars are very complex. They're a great feat of engineering, and every time someone steps into a car to go onto the road, they're taking a risk. So currently, things like this may make a few people uncomfortable due to the risk of driving a car and the complexity and possibility of a system failing and the system itself whenever someone like this has a mechanical arm and is driving a vehicle. However, with a lot of ingenuity, lots of problems in the past that seemed completely impossible were outdone and worked around the fragility of those counterparts, the people within them. And to this day, there are a bunch of systems that are used out on the road completely autonomously. The people that are on the road do have risk still, but these systems are put in place to specifically maintain safety. Now, how this relates to transhumanism, this is a real man. This person actually drives this car, and he had a work-related accident a few years ago, and he found transhumanism as a real solution that helped him incredibly. It changed his life. Now, technologies in the past for this specific type of machinery were relatively crude, and technology has advanced a lot over time. So as of now, we're not quite to the level that science fiction has shown machines to be, but we are approaching it, this being one of the newer systems in the commercial environment. This man, there are lots of examples of these people. I wish I could show as many as I'd love to in this presentation, but of course I've got to keep the time down. Over the past few years, this is a picture from 5 years ago of Koreatech, a company that was working on, and is still working on, mechanical biomimetic systems. Biomimetic systems being systems made to mimic biology. So 5 years ago, these were very complex systems because the specific tuning they were doing was to help enable a person. And to get the same range of motion as a person for something as complex as a hand is very difficult due to the hand being an incredibly complex system. The hand itself is one of the most complex systems of the human body, being that mechanically it's very dense. So getting it all packed in there is difficult, meaning that if it were to have an engineering solution, then pretty much every other part of the body would have a similar biomimetic system that could be found and used to help disabled people to become enabled again. Modernly, technology is approximately exponential in how fast it develops. So any field of technology, including biomimetic prosthetics, are advancing a lot faster now than when they started. This being started realistically, or in the sense it is today, about 30 years ago. So this is a more modern edition of the hand by a company that I've been following for the past 2 years, Nilheim Mechatronics, right here in the States. And this company has been working on bringing 3D printable appendages of different kinds into the homes of anyone who needs it. So people that do have these disabled parts of their body or lack thereof will be able to eventually go on the internet, download an open source file, and then be able to print their own pieces back together. And with a doctor, they'll be able to bring themselves back to being capable again. Science fiction has depicted hands like these very similarly to the way that we're going into now. This is a commercial product by Open human bionics, and it's modeled specifically after a hand from a video game, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, and they're approaching this because it's almost insane that this kind of thing is as complex as it is and helps these people advance better. The 3D printing part of it is just specifically to bring it to everyone's homes. And people like this child who was a congenital amputee is now able to have a hand again. This one specifically because his father designed a hand for him, and they got it working to some degree to where he's able to grip things. This kind of thing is indicative of how this kind of technology has been treated during the past decade, which is that almost all of them have been hobbyists or specific individuals looking for solutions like this, and they just started designing on their own. The commercial aspect of this hasn't been quite done. But through a lot of refinement, even the people who have been disabled have been able to bring themselves back to a standard amount of human capability, even to risky things like driving. These technologies are always under development, as I've stated, but there are lots of great pieces coming together. The sense of touch being revived, things that a normal person could not be capable of doing all at once, and even new senses being brought together. Like this man who is currently piloting a drone with a great sense of the drone's position relative to itself, and they're using it very expertly, very quickly. They learned how to do that, and those kinds of applications can be applied to bringing forth things that once didn't exist that will now be similar to how things in science fiction were, but only 10 years ago. In the past, prosthetics were not really an option. In the future, prosthetics will likely be used by the everyman to enhance their abilities in their work. In the present, the prosthetics are used to bring disabled persons to a state of normal capability.